If this dog reacted every time he was right, he'd fail. That sentence sounds backwards. Most people believe reliability comes from being correct, from reacting quickly, from catching every signal, from responding the moment something feels off. But that belief is exactly why most dogs and most systems fail under pressure. Because correctness isn't the same thing as reliability. And reacting every time you're right is often the fastest way to make a mistake. Most people think a good dog should notice everything, every sound, every movement, every unfamiliar presence. They think awareness means reaction, that readiness means engagement, that safety comes from catching every possible threat. But that mindset misunderstands how real environments work, because real environments are noisy. They're full of false signals. And most things that look like danger aren't. If a dog reacted to every correct observation, every sound that could be something, every movement that might matter, every presence that doesn't belong, he'd spend all his energy reacting to things that never become real. And eventually, he'd miss the moment that actually matters. This dog wasn't bred to be correct. He was bred to be selective. And that means being wrong most of the time. People don't like that idea. We're taught that being right is good, that accuracy equals competence, that missing things is failure. But in high-stakes environments, accuracy without restraint creates chaos. False positives are expensive. Every unnecessary reaction costs energy. Every misread situation trains bad habits. Every early escalation erodes judgment. So the most reliable dogs aren't the ones that react the fastest. They're the ones that don't react until something crosses a real threshold. That's what this dog is doing when he looks like he's doing nothing. He's letting things pass, sounds that don't matter, movement that doesn't escalate, presence that doesn't cross a line. To most people, that looks like indifference, or laziness, or poor training, but it's neither. It's filtration. A reactive dog treats everything like it matters. This dog doesn't. He allows himself to be wrong safely, wrong about noise, wrong about movement, wrong about harmless presence, because being wrong quietly preserves his ability to be right precisely. This is where people get uncomfortable, because we've been taught to fear missing things. We think vigilance means catching every signal. We think safety comes from constant alertness. We think reacting early prevents problems, but reacting early often creates them. Imagine a dog that barked at every sound, every wind shift, every bird, every distant movement. At first it looks impressive, but over time the signal loses meaning. The environment becomes background noise. The dog becomes emotionally exhausted. Judgment collapses into habit. And when something real finally appears, it blends in with everything else. That's how failure happens. Not suddenly, quietly. This dog avoids that by being wrong on purpose. He allows harmless things to pass without reaction, not because he didn't notice them, but because he evaluated them and dismissed them. When dogs like this were bred, their job wasn't to catch threats early. It was to prevent mistakes. They worked in environments where reacting incorrectly had consequences. Open land, livestock, nighttime, no supervision, no second chances. There was no handler to step in, no command to override a bad decision, no leash to correct an overreaction. So mistakes couldn't happen. That meant reacting less, not more. A dog that reacts every time he's right is unreliable, because right doesn't mean relevant. and relevance is the only thing that matters. People think reliability means consistency, but real reliability is discretion, knowing what to ignore, knowing what to allow, knowing when not to act. That kind of judgment requires restraint, and restraint looks like stillness. That's why this dog can lie down while things move around him. He's not unaware. He's waiting for meaning. This is the part most people misunderstand. They think the dog is waiting to be told what to do. He's not. He's waiting to see if action is required at all. A trained dog often reacts because he's conditioned to. A reliable dog reacts because the environment demands it. Those are very different things. Training teaches response patterns. Reliability requires decision-making, and decision-making can't exist if reaction is automatic. That's why too much training can quietly destroy judgment, because the faster you teach a dog to respond, the less time he has to evaluate. Fast looks impressive, immediate feels safe, but speed without evaluation creates errors. This dog wasn't bred for speed. He was bred for timing. And timing means being wrong until you're not. People think danger announces itself. They think threats escalate. They think problems get louder before they get serious. They don't. Real danger is subtle. It blends in. It looks ordinary until it isn't. And a dog that reacts to everything never sees the difference. This dog sees it because he ignores almost everything. He doesn't bark because something exists. He doesn't move because something changes. He doesn't escalate because something feels different. He waits until a threshold is crossed, and thresholds don't happen often. That's why most of his time looks uneventful. This is also why people try to fix dogs like this. They think stillness means disengagement. They think restraint means uncertainty. They think neutrality is a flaw. So they intervene. They encourage reaction. They reward engagement. They push responsiveness. And slowly, they remove the dog's ability to filter. The dog starts reacting sooner, checking in more, escalating faster, and people mistake that for improvement until it fails. Because once restraint is gone, it's very hard to rebuild. You can train a dog to react. You can't easily train him to wait again. That's why this dog was bred to be wrong most of the time. Because being wrong quietly is safer than being right loudly. Because false positives are more dangerous than missed noise. Because restraint preserves judgment. This dog doesn't look impressive. He doesn't perform awareness. He doesn't advertise readiness. He doesn't reassure people with constant motion. He just prevents mistakes, and prevention is invisible. You only notice it when it fails, when something goes wrong, when a dog reacts too early, when judgment collapses under pressure. That's when people realize what restraint was doing all along. So when you see a dog like this, calm, still, apparently doing nothing, don't assume he's unaware. He may be wrong on purpose, filtering, waiting, preserving judgment, so that when something actually matters, he doesn't hesitate. Because reliability isn't about being right all the time. It's about being right when it counts. And that's why this dog was bred to be wrong most of the time, on purpose.